Hello and welcome once again on this Monday afternoon for some crafty fun with me. Thanks for joining us today, whether you're in the UK or further afield. And if you're new to the channel, let me introduce myself first. My name's Simon Williamson, and I'm here from the Avago-Ink Designs. And I'm here to give you some really good crafty inspiration with our products. And if you haven't got our products, I'm sure you can craft along with your stash at home as well. We are on across social media as well, so if you want to hit the like and subscribe buttons, you'll be kept informed of any notifications that's coming up about the Avago brand, and any other notifications as well about the crafty family that I'm proud to be part of. So it's really nice to have your company. Like I said, I can see you logging on already. We've got some lovely inspiration today's show for Valentine's Day. That's why we've got our lovely balloons there in the corner. So we're sharing the love of craft with the love for Valentine's Day as well. We've got a few new features to run through as well. So as you can see on the screen below, we've got a little QR code in the bottom corner there. It says scan to shop. If you scan that with your camera, it'll launch a page for you, and it'll give you option to put the code in. You put shop 12, and that'll list all the products on today's show. So you don't have to worry about remembering what they're called or the codes and things like that. It's just an easier way for you to enjoy the show and shop later. So let's say hi to everybody that's joined. So we've got Irene on, Joanne, Joan, Melanie, hello, welcome to another crafty afternoon with me. Sylvie's on as well. Hello, Sylvie. Wow, it's been a busy day, hasn't it? Anybody caught Thirsty Brush on Creating Craft? You had 2 shows today, I believe. If you didn't, they are available on catch-up, so go back and watch them because she's got some lovely Thirsty Brush products in the new launch as well, so well worth the watch if you've got some time spare after the show. So you can see on the screen at the moment, that's the kind of products we're going to be using today to put our cards together. So I've got our lovely Oriental collections with our stencils and our dies on stamps. And I'm going to be going with just 2 colour inks, the black and the red, to put this collection together. So let's get started with the first demo. So the first one I'm going to do is a really, really simple card that I think just screams Valentine's Day. And look at that one. We're going to make that lovely character hold that heart dead in the centre. And we can get some lovely shading going on with the stencil in the background. So let's get started with this one then. So ahead of time, I've got my card blank, which I believe is a 6x6. And I've cut my card front, which is 5.5 by 5.5. So that's the kind of size that we're going to go with. I've got a scrap of paper. I've just brought yellow so it's easy to see. I'm going to die cut the bigger heart so I can put this on as a mask, really, to keep that area nice and clean and protected. So I'm just going to bring in my die machine. How are we all doing today, then? Are we all crafting along or having a cuppa? I'll just run that through. Oop. I still think they should play music when I do this, I've got to say. Just run that through. Put those plates out to one side. So we know that we've got our character that's going to be holding this art shape. So the best thing to do is work out roughly where you want it on your page. So I'm going to just position it there. And you can see by then moving your character whether that's going to work for you. So make sure you get it in the right kind of place. Now the heart she's going to be holding is a little bit higher, so it's going to probably go about there. But I'm really happy with that composition. You can see I've got a nice kind of edge around there. So that's where we want to centre this. And because we're going to be putting the heart over it, the best way is just to use a little bit of a glue or a light tack tape. So I'm just going to put a little bit under there. And then can hold that down, and we know it's not going to move then. That's going to be perfect for our next step. So I brought in my stencil, and this is the lovely Oriental fan one. It's very well loved, this one, you can see. And we're just going to use these magnets just to hold this down on this board. There we go. I'm going to be using the Stamps by Me ink. This is the Redwood one. So really nice colour. I'll just get my blending brush, lightly pick some of that up, just get a scrap of paper actually while I'm just take the excess off, and then I'm just going to use circular motions with this brush just to start building this colour up. Just taking that all the way around. I put a little bit of pressure over the heart just to make sure it doesn't move. So I just want to make sure we get a nice kind of detail around there. I love this stencil. If anybody's got it, you'll have to share what you've made with it, but I think it's such a nice one. So just taking that pattern all the way around. Yeah, so red's quite a heavy theme today with it being Valentine's Day cards. So I don't want to go too heavy. There we go, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to take this off. You can see that we've got a really nice pattern starting to emerge now on that kind of card base. So when I take this up, I'm just going to show you that I want a little bit more definition around this kind of like heart shape. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to use the excess on this brush and just brush off the shape as well, just to soften the edges a little bit more. And you'll see what I mean. It looks very subtle, but it just adds a little bit more to it. So just turn that heart as you go. Joanne says she's just having lunch. Oh, you lucky thing. I might treat myself to a carvery after this, I've got to say. So just taking that heart shape all the way around. Just a little bit more in that bottom corner. There you go. So if I take this off now, you'll see it's just added to that effect. I'm not bothered about this glue as well, so we're going to be taking that area, but you can see you've got this lovely fan design, but you've also got a little bit of shadowing around that heart to make it even more pronounced. So I think that's a really effective way of using a bit of a mask to help with your stenciling. So that's the background for that card. So let's move that to one side. I'm just going to bring up my stamping press. So we're going to use the Eureka for this one. And while we're at this stage, I can put my sentiment where I want it on the card. So I think I'm going to go with the bottom left because we're going to have our character at this side. And I think it'll look a little bit too busy if I put it up here. So I'm going to go to the bottom left for this. And I've got the With Love. She's just perfect for Valentine's Day, isn't it? Let's get that secured there. And we use the Stamps by Me Midnight Black. Lightly tap this, but you don't need to put too much pressure on. We'll do that a couple of times. We've got a few more people joining us now, so hello to Irene and Bridget and Joanne. Anybody in America as well that's joining, welcome. So I know it's on that page as well. There we go. So we've got our lovely background now that's come together. So you know the way I like to craft is I like to build things as we go. So let's get this built onto our card. So I've done my matte and layer, and I've got the glitter card there. But I'm going to need a glitter heart. So rather than waste all this behind here, let's cut it out now, and then we can save a bit of card, can't we? Cards are expensive nowadays, so we need to be a little bit more frugal with it. So we'll just bring this in, bring the plates, and I'll just get the the heart dead in the middle of there. And then that way, we're just saving a bit of cost, aren't we? And we'll just run that through. So are you all expecting Valentine's cards? Are you just going to give them, or do you just want the chocolates and the flowers instead? So we'll cut that heart shape out for later. Bring them plates out the way. So let's get this assembled. So I've got our card blank, make sure which way it opens. So we know that's going to go there. So we use a little bit of tape runner just to hold it. And I'm going to put a little bit of wet glue as well, just so it really bonds. It's something I'm doing more, especially with trying to save money. I'm trying to take the centres out of the actual matte layers because it's wasted. And they're normally quite pretty papers and glitter cardstock, so they're not cheap, are they? And then we've got our lovely background that we've just done. So we'll just put some glue around there. Just going to put a little bit of tape runner just to make sure it sticks while the glue goes off. Do it the right way around, Simon. Then we'll pop that on there. And give that a good push down. So you can see we've got a really nice background forming. But you know, even if you just stop there, how amazing would that card look with that detailed fan background? But we're going to add a bit of a character to it to make it another level. So let's put that to one side. That can be just securing itself. We're going to bring back in the platform. And we're going to use one of our lovely characters from the Oriental collection. And this is the one with the fan. So you can see it's a really big image, fell that on that card. But we're not bothered about this fan, so I'm just going to stamp it here, and then we're going to fussy cut around it in a second. There's loads of detail in this character. It's got a lovely face as well, really cheerful. I'll just use the Midnight Black again. Just tap that. I know I was looking today for like Valentine's props, but all I could see is Easter eggs, I've got to say. So Easter's not too far away, so we might have to think of some cards for that next. Is that a good push down? And there we go, we've got our lovely character there. So let's move that stamp out of the way. So I'm going to bring in my watercolours. I've not done a bit of watercolouring for a bit, so I thought we'd break it up a bit. So I'm sure you've all got some of these at home. So because I've got the background that's red, I'm going to use like complementary colours to that. So I think we're going to go with like a purple wash. Just going to move that the other way around so it's a bit closer for me when I watercolour. Just going to water that down so it's not as dark, and then we can build it up when we want to. So let's give her some nice purple in her outfit. And I love this kind of oriental pattern. I can see there's that little flowers going through this and swirls. So you can make this as busy as you want to with your colours. You can leave some open areas if you want to. You do you, as I think Dawn Wheeler says. So I'll give it some nice purple into a top. And then I'm just going to deepen that down a little bit more. Then we can add a little bit of shadowing just into some of these areas. Just on them leading edges. Round the neck. And then we can blend that back out with some more water as well. So if it looks a little bit too like there's a line, just use your water and pull that through. You can see you can soften those arch edges on that way. So let's do this sleeve. Same way, just start with the pale colour first and then darken it down a little bit, just to give it a bit more depth. There we go, you can see that's starting to give you a bit of graduation. So let's have another colour in this one now. So I think I'm going to go for a bit of blue actually. Let's give a nice pale blue for this. And I think we're going to go just over a garment with like a blue wash, just to tone that white down. Down here as well. And then make it a tad darker. And she can have like a I don't know what that little bit's called, but bit that goes across the tummy. It's like a silk, isn't it, that they normally wear. So just darken that a little bit more. Just add a little bit of pale blue at the top. And then we need to just give us some hair definition now. So I tend to do the flowers first. So let's get some nice blues and purples going off up here. Then we'll have some little purple details. Just to break it up a bit. Got to make a match, haven't we? Got to coordinate. And these little pearls that are going down the side of her hair. And then we'll just bring that blue back in. And there's like a little band that goes across the head here, so I'm just going to fill that blue bit in. A little bit dark on the flowers. And then we'll give her some hair colour now. So let's go for a brown, I think. Make it a bit different. So Paula says she loves these stamps. And Joanne says, I love watching watercolour, it's so relaxing. Do you know, I could watch watercolouring videos all the time. I love how it bleeds into cardstock. The next sample you'd like, this is a really nice background effect that we're going to be doing. So, same with the hair, just put the wash across where the hair is. Just taking that down. And this is what I'm saying about, you can go to your own ability, so you don't have to, you know what I mean? You don't have to be excellent at watercolour. You might want to use your pencil crayons, you might want to use your felt markers, whichever you prefer. So just going to use a slightly darker brown now, and then we can go back in, just some of these areas that are highlighted, just build them up a little bit. A little bit like we did with the gown. So let's just get a little bit more depth into a few areas. Round her face, just to make it a little bit darker. And there we go. So finally, because she's got quite a pale face, and it was going to give her a little bit more colour. And just with like a pale peachy wash. Drag that down. And then a very faint little bit of red. And we'll give her some little cheeks, look. Just let that bleed in. You can see that it just gives a little bit of a complexion. And then a darker red, just for those little red lips. And I'm just going to finish this off with this pop of red, just giving a fan a little bit more detail. Just on these flowers, so it's not as flat. You could colour it in, but I wanted it to stick out a little bit more. So just having a few little red pops on these flowers. And there we go. I think that's our little character coloured in now. So I'm just going to give that a blast with a hot air gun. Just dry that off for you. I love the little faces though, and I like the outfits aren't too busy that you can't see them individual little flowers. If it starts to curl, just think from the back and it'll just bring it back to shape. There we go. And I'm just going to fussy cut around this now, so I'll just move that out of the way. I've got my big scissors for this. What do you prefer to do at home? Because I always fussy cut with big scissors, but I know a lot of people like these very small ones. So I'm just going to follow that around. You could leave a border if you wanted to, but I'm going to keep the actual cut as close to as possible. Any areas like these little beads that you're not comfortable cutting, just cut through, because it really doesn't matter. Just going to go around her hair. Just around these little sticks in her hair. Just keeping this a little bit looser. Keep these beads in because they're a nice little detail for the side. I'm going to chop over here, and then where a little hand is, I'm just going to cut right down to a garment, so there's like a slit, and I'm just going to cut the other thumb, so it's like almost like a bit you can hold the heart with in a second. And there we go, that's her cut out. So John says, I think I prefer big scissors. I think you get more control with them, but I know it's one of them like debates, isn't it? Like with stamping and die cutting, which bit do you do first? But I do prefer it myself. So I'm just going to give this a bit of shape. So I'm going to curl it around like the length of the body, this way. But then I'm going to actually bend the arm back up. So it looks like it's a little bit more three-dimensional. So if I turn it that way, you can probably see. Which way? There we go. Oh, that way. You can see I've got like a curl going this way and then it flicking back up there for a hand. It just gives you a bit more dimension. So I'll make sure that's really well done. And then I can put some little foam pads on the back of her, ready to support. And we need some foam pads on the back of our glitter heart. Okay, and the best way to do this is put the heart down first. So I'll just get my pokey tool to get the backings of these off. You know me and these double-sided foam pads, we always fight. And then we've created that lovely white area of that heart. So we've put that directly within there. You can see it really draws your attention to this kind of shape with having that white border. And then we're just going to pull the backings off these. Definitely. I get snippy with small scissors. When you say snippy, do you mean that like they start losing bits that you wanted to keep? I'm going to put a little blob of glue just at the back of the arm that we've bent the opposite way. And then we can use that little slit we did in a hand to hold that heart. And we'll get it positioned just there, look. You can see a little hand's like holding the heart, so it's really located well. So how's that one? That's the first card then for today, and that's a lovely Valentine's card. Ooh, just move it this way a little bit. Just showing how that fabulous fan design gives you that background, and that masked area just draws your attention. So if you didn't want to do the heart, you could use that technique to put a big sentiment there. But I just think it's a really nice card, that one, and I'm sure you could have a go with that one yourself. So what we're going to do now is going to give some inspiration from the Avago collection. I'll set up for the next demonstration, which is another Valentine's theme one, so I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Hi, my name's Simon Williamson. I'm the guest demonstrator for Avago-Ink Designs. Avago-Inks it's basically images that we can put together so anybody can have a go. I think I love the most about crafting is it can just give you time out in your own head. You can just down tools, not think about your mobile phone and just enjoy what you're going to do, create a project and be proud of what you've made. My inspiration comes really from lots of sources. I love looking at current trends, I like looking through the internet, and I like looking at what other people make, and I think truly inspiration comes from picking bits out of everything you see, pull it all together and make it something that you can do with your skills. Avago products, we've got 3 collections out at the moment. We've got as dinosaur range, as farmyard range, and as little owl collection. And the main crux of the actual designs is there's a big image there, little characters you can play around, have fun, and there's always some puns in there as well, so you can liven up the card and make it a bit humorous for everybody. I think if you're thinking about trying one of our products, is don't be afraid. Just buy any of the kits that you feel like you want to, and you'll always create a really good card from there. There's some good characters, good sentiments, and some really fun images in there. So just grab one and have a go.
Welcome back. I hope you got some lovely inspiration from that. It gives you a little bit of an insight into the Avago brand. So it is meant to be there to encourage everybody to get along and craft. So Hopefully you got that from that little bit of VT. I can see that you like the card as well. Anita says she likes it, Joanne, so thank you very much for your comments. I like to know that I'm doing something right and you're enjoying these. So this is another one I'm going to do then. So this is a bit of a three-dimensional one, so it's got a little bit of relief really. But you can see in the centre we've got that lovely die that we use in the actual Oriental collection, but we're going to break it up a little bit and do a lovely watery background. You can see that this stands proud. If I just turn it this way a little bit, you can see it's really got some depth there, so it's kind of like a scene that gives you a little bit more. Okay, so let's show you how to do this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to work on the actual front of this card. So I've cut one of the Stamps by Me red top fold cards down, so it was a little bit wider, but I've cut this down to 4.5, so it's 4.5 wide, and it's the normal length that way. And I've got a nice panel that's going to go on the front of it, which I've cut down to, I think it was 4 by 7 3/4, and that's going to just nest with a real nice red border to run this Valentine's theme on there. So let's start with this one. I'm going to bring in my die plates first of all, and I brought in my nesting heart shapes dies. So I want these to be on here, look, and I want them evenly spaced. And I kept doing them, and they kept going a little bit wonky, and it didn't really work. So I found the best way to do this is to put your card down on a mat like this with the grid lines. You know the kind of depth that you're working to then, and then you can use the centre line of the heart. You can get them all lined up then exactly where you want them. So if I put them like this, we know they're going to be nice and evenly spaced. We can increase them gaps between the hearts if we want to, and we can also see that it's going to fit on our card as well. So that's just another way to line them up, a little bit easy for you. And then what I'm going to do then is use some low tack tape, and I can just run that straight over those, push down, and it's going to keep them in that formation that I'm liking. I can transfer that to my card, position it where we want, and it's very low tack, this tape, and I've chosen that because it's watercolour cardstock. I don't want it to like rip the texture, so I'm going to put pressure on the centre hearts because I'm not going to be using those, and then that way we're going to hopefully not have any accidents. So just pop that over there and there, put my plate cover on, and I'm going to run that through. I'm a great lover of doing things by eye, but when you've got a heart shape and it's a little bit wonky, it upsets me a bit, it really does. So I thought that was a good way of making sure they were level for you. Just pull that out. And then we can just tease this off, so I'll just pull this down. There we go. That's the second one. That's the third one. We'll just do this very fine bit at the bottom. There we go. We'll just get them to one side. So now you can see we've got our lovely background there, and we've got our hearts in there where we want them. Dead in position. Brilliant. And we're not doing a sentiment on this card, so this is why I want to make sure it's really focally accurate for you. So I'm going to bring in the next stencil now, and this is the lovely Blossom one. Again, it's very well used, this one, but you can see it's got some lovely kind of open flowers and like texture lines. So all I'm going to do is hold this over his card. I'm going to bring in that Redwood ink again. Just think it's perfect for these at the moment. Circular motions. I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on this just to get a darker image. I'm just going to keep moving that around. And I'm just going to change my stencil up. Just making sure these flowers go into these open areas so that gets some lovely detail coming through. Just some down this side. Some at this bottom bit here. can see now we've got a lovely kind of breakup of that stencil going across it. There's a few areas that I want to add a few more, but I don't want them to be as dark. So I'm not going to pick up any more ink up, but I am going to put this down and just lightly put some of these on ever so often, so you can see. It looks like it's hardly done anything, but when you lift it off, you've got a really nice faint flower in the background coming through. So just a few of the faint ones just to break it up. Just one. And there you go. So it just breaks it up a little bit more, and it'll draw your eye then to the centre of these little areas that we're going to be making. So put my lid on my ink so it doesn't go anywhere. So the next thing we need to do is create our little, can't say that word, the scenic bits. Panoramic, that's what I'm trying to say. The panoramic scenic bits, and that's going to be using the Oriental dies. So these give you like a really good, detailed kind of like tree line, and these like Pagoda kind of style buildings, and this like little cherry blossom here. And then the other one's a little bit flatter. So you can see if you wanted to mount these up, you can get a really good definition and some kind of depth to your card, but we're going to be using bits of these today. So let's run these through, just with some black card. And because I don't need this, we're going to chop into it. If I just do them facing outwards, they can use either side of the card then to run them through in one go. Let's trap those in. Anita says, no one wants a wonky heart. That's true. That is very true, Anita. So I'm just going to run that through. I do like playing around with basic shapes, so like your circles and your hearts, and I just think it really kind of frames your artwork a little bit more. So just going to pull those bits out. So I'm just going to just tease them out, just because I've not cut to the edge, so I'm just going to tear the last little bit, so I don't really need that. Ooh. Get rid of that. And I'm just going to pull out our lovely Oriental buildings and blossom tree. Just tease that out a little bit more. Look how well that die cuts, though. It's a beautiful die, even if you don't want the characters with it. I think you'll find it really versatile. Just find my little pokey tool. But there's some really tiny windows in here, so let's get those popped out. I think every crafter has a poker tool. It's the law, isn't it? And there you go. So you can see we've got that lovely kind of scene. It's almost like a water effect if you do it that way. Might be an idea for me to remember for next time, that. So what we're going to do now is going to work on what we're going to put in each window. So we can have a little look at these scenes and we can position them so we can use them like a little frame. So you could do lots of little silhouettes, look. Just depends where you want to put them. But I think that looks nice in that top one there, I think. Should we go about there, I think? So let's chop that one. So if I just cut like that, you can then have a play around with it and get it where you want to. I think that's a really nice thing, but then it's within the heart shape. We just need to cut up this side now. So let's just reach under there, and I know that bit needs to be cut around there. And I tend to glue these as I go. So let's turn this over, put a little bit of wet glue on this lower part. And then let's get that one in position. So we're gluing these to the back of the first bit, and then it's going to give you a bit of definition behind it. So that one's on. And then we'll just go down to the next bit. So I think we'll go here, this tree. So let's just cut that little V shape there, and we can get that little tree in there. So it's great as well, but you know when we die cutting these shapes, we sometimes do miss the line and think we've ruined it. Just shows you can make something with it still. So a bit of glue around the bottom of that again. And then we're going to pop that there. going to put a little bit of glue up here just to hold this tree stable. And then I don't need this bit, so let's chop that bit off. Hold that down a second. And then we've got this little tree down here, so I think we're just going to go with this little cute tree. We'll cut this one while we've got it the right way up. I think this has worked well with the... we did another die, didn't we, for the fish collection with all the little reef. So I think if you've got that one at home, I think that'd look quite nice. So just making sure that glue's grabbed them a little bit. And this is what I'm saying, if we've got wonky heart, this is where it would show it a little bit more. So if I just turn that over, just look at that now. We've got some lovely kind of like scenic panels going off. And I like how it kind of just draws your eye down them love hearts. So we need a background for this though. So let's pop this up here just for a second while that glue goes off. And I've got a strip of watercolour card that's just a little bit smaller than the actual bit we've just done. So we've got a nice light border around it, so you're not going to see where you glue it down. So I'm going to bring in my watercolours again. And what I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to give it a wash of water so that we can bleed some colours together. So just got my... Just going to bring that water a little bit closer. So just bring that water all the way down. I'm going to create a bit of a moody sky, really. So let's do some purple on here first. So I'm just going to use a bit of a deeper colour for this one. I'm just going to kind of like bring it into the card a little bit. Almost like stripes ever so often. And I'm going to add some red to that. Do exactly the same, so I'm just going to put some of that really bright red, just going underneath that purple. Just deepen this down a little bit more. And I'm going to take the water off my brush so it's a little bit drier, and then you can just kind of help it brush across. And I'm going to go back in and give it a bit more detail if we want more depth. And don't forget as well, your watercolours will always dry back a little bit paler. So let's just bring that across. And then I think I'm just going to put a bit of a deep blue in this one. Just to break this up a little bit. Make it a bit like a moody night sky. I promise you this is going to look really good when it's on the card. At the moment, I bet you're going, what's he doing? A little bit more darkness down here. There you go. I think I'm going to stop there. So let me just give that a bit of a blast with a heat gun just to make sure it's dried. Hold it down there just a second. Just going to get the surface dry first. I'm going to just turn it over, then just take the curl out of the card. There we go. There you go. See, it's starting to go flatter now, look. And how does that, I mean, that looks really interesting, doesn't it? How you've got like kind of these bands of colours going across. And you can have a play around with all them kind of like bits of watercolours you've got left. Or even, you know, when you get the bits in your lid that you kind of like don't want to like throw away. It's a good way of doing those. Right, so we know this is going to be in our centre panel. So we're going to get this put onto the back of our card first of all. So let's use a bit of glue on that. Just going to put a little bit of tape runner down here. get that centred where we want it. So I think that's going to go just about there. And that's going to give us a really nice background in a second. So push that down, make sure that adheres. And then we've got our lovely silhouettes that we've made, our little heart scenes. I'm going to get some foam pads for this so we get a bit more dimension. So let's give some foam pads around the edge. Don't be shy with your foam pads as well. There's nothing worse than it going flat in the post. If you put enough on, it'll keep its shape then for you. Put one behind our little panel designs. And one more there. That should give it ample support. So we're just going to take these backings off now. Well, I'm being really tidy. Look, if I were at home, these would be on carpet now. And you know, if you struggle to get some of these backings off, just put a bit of glue on top of them. They're still going to give you the support. So I'm just going to pull those last few off. Here we go. Just going to move these out of the way. And then we're going to get this assembled. So we've got our lovely background glued down. And just look what happens to these skies when you put this over. How moody does them skies look? I'll put that on there for you. Ooh, just enter that up a bit for you. And isn't just that a really good way of making like a dramatic skyline for yourself? And I think that's a lovely card. And it doesn't need a sentiment, does it? You know what I mean? Your actual focal points is that lovely heart design. I'll just bring the other one in. And there you go. That's our lovely 2 cards for today in the Valentine's theme. So I really hope you enjoyed those demonstrations. It gave you some inspiration. I love the background. And I just think, you know, when you've got a strip of watercolour card, just get them colours on it because it looks cracking behind something like that. And it's something that would have probably gone in the bin, that bit of card. So have a play around. Have a play with your little die cuts, your shapes, your hearts. Make your own Valentine's card this year and send it to somebody that you want to. But apart from that, thank you very much for joining me. I think there's a show on later today as well. I forgot what time it was. Is it Tony? Tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Yep, tomorrow at 6 o'clock, it's Tony Darroch, so make sure you catch that. Sorry about that, I forgot. And if you haven't already seen the Thirsty Brush from today on Creating Craft, please go and catch that on Catch Up. It's a lovely collection and it's really some beautiful samples, so it's well worth the watch. But thank you for joining me today and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.